There had been no news from Zhao Yu after her first letter, and Lu Zhou knew that she was most likely not coming back. Like the few other disciples, she chose to leave the sect. Lu Zhou tried to figure out the reason for her defection but failed, for a great part of Ji Tiandao's memory was lost. However, Mingxirin had only gone out once and his loyalty was reduced to below the passing level, so Zhao Yu should have been also persuaded by someone to defect, he reckoned. Anyhow, he stopped thinking about it after a moment. After all, it was not an overnight project to discipline and tame these disciples. His priority now was to restore his life force and increase his cultivation base as quickly as possible. He did not say anything, but little Yuana felt that her master was unfairly treated, so she said angrily, "I can't believe senior sister Zhao Yu is also like that." Lu Zhou shook his head and said, "Just ignore her." "Master, she betrayed you and the sect. How can we simply ignore her?" Little Yuana got angrier. Lu Zhou found her angry look rather cute, and he said, "In this case, you will also find out news about Zhao Yu at the station for the next few days." "I understand, master. Leave me alone. You may cultivate on your own." "Yes." Thinking that Lu Zhou was sulking, little Yuano obediently left the gazebo. Meanwhile, Mingxirin, who got the final part of his cultivation technique, met with Duamuxing at the foot of the mountain. "Old Fourth, you are really lucky this time," said Duamuxing with an envious look. "Master not only didn't blame you, but also gave you the final part of the bluewood technique." With his arms folded over his chest, Mingxirin said, "I have no idea what Master was thinking. Maybe I really thought too much." "What do you mean?" "I've completed the task, so it is reasonable for Master to reward me." However, Old Seventh said that Master possessed a secret drug that can temporarily conceal his injury, so I thought of testing him. Mingxirin did not hide it from his senior brother. Duamuxing's expression changed slightly when he heard that. "You really have the nerve." "Aye, but it's too late to regret now. Among the fellow disciples who are still on Golden Court Mountain now, you are the cleverest." "I can't believe you would do such a stupid thing," said Duamuxing in a stern voice. "Even I could figure it out myself without being told by Old Seventh. If Master were not wounded and his cultivation base were at its peak, why would he stay on the mountain?" Mingxirin nodded repeatedly. With their master's temper, he would have gone out to finish the enemies if he were healthy and in his peak form. During the last fierce battle with the top 10 experts, he had used many ultimate skills and yet he was perfectly fine. No ordinary cultivator would dare to waste energy like that. "Senior brother, I've always wanted the complete bluewood technique. With it, I believe it won't take me long to reach the perfected level of the divine court realm. Maybe, I can even step into the nascent divinity tribulation realm, just like eldest senior brother and second senior brother. Now that I have finally got it, however, I feel somewhat lost." Ever since junior sister Tianxin deserted the sect, Master stopped teaching the final part of all the cultivation techniques and giving out heaven-grade treasures. "But, he made an exception for you this time. You are afraid that Master has other thoughts, aren't you?" said Duamuxing. "Indeed. What do you think it is?" Mingxirin asked. "My advice is to faithfully complete the tasks assigned to us by Master. Think about it, Master is wounded now, and he is approaching the end of his life, so he won't harm us. Also, the top 10 sects have suffered heavy losses and they won't dare to attack Golden Court Mountain rashly. I believe that Golden Court Mountain will still be our protective shield for a long time to come." "That makes sense. Senior brother, you are a man of great wisdom, and your words have enlightened me." Mingxirin bowed toward Duamuxing. If he deserted the sect after taking the script, he would not only infuriate his master, but also face the pursuit of orthodox cultivators. At the moment, when they still lack the courage to establish their own sect like their eldest senior brother, staying on Golden Court Mountain was their best choice. Ding! You are rewarded with 200 merit points from disciplining Mingxirin. Mingxirin's loyalty increases by 5%. Duamuxing's loyalty increases by 5%. Sitting in the gazebo, Lu Zhou opened his eyes slightly as he smiled and nodded. Ji Tiandao did not dare to give them the final part of their cultivation techniques, but Lu Zhou did, because his journey had just begun. The old villain had reached the end of his life, and therefore he needed to control his disciples with such a method. Meanwhile, Lu Zhou had no need for it. Name, Lu Zhou. Race, human. Cultivation base, the eye aperture stage of the mystic enlightening realm. Avatar, 2 transformed powers. Merit points, 1004. Remaining life, 1509 days. Items, Ji Tiandao Peak Form Card X2, Critical Block Card, Passive X5. A 3 condensing flowers avatar costs 3,000 merit points, but I only have 1,000 points. It is far from enough. Should I wait a little longer? No, I can't afford to wait. My health is too poor and I don't want to repeat Jitiandao's mistake. It is because of old age that his cultivation base gradually reduced. But a reversal card costs 500 merit points, which is too expensive. Well, I think I'll try my luck first. Lucky draw. Ding! This lucky draw costs 50 merit points. Thank you for trying, you have received 1 luck point. Lucky draw. Ding! This lucky draw costs 50 merit points. Thank you for trying, you have received 1 luck point. He tried 5 times in a row and spent 250 merit points, and yet all he got was a bunch of thank you for trying. Lu Zhou's brow frowned slightly as he said in a not-so-happy voice, "System, you have given me 23 times of thank you for trying in a row, including the 18 times before this. Is there any problem with the probability of your lucky draw?" Of course, the system did not answer and he barely restrained himself from swearing. "I still have 754 merit points. I will try 2 more times and then use the balance to buy a reversal card." Lucky draw. Ding! This lucky draw costs 50 merit points. Thank you for trying, you have received 1 luck point. F***CK. Lu Zhou cursed in his mind. Lucky draw. Ding! This lucky draw costs 50 merit points. Thank you for trying, you have received 1 luck point. I'll try just 1 more time, and if it still gives me nothing this time, I'll stop. Lucky draw. Ding! This lucky draw costs 50 merit points. Thank you for trying, you have received 1 luck point. 1 more time. Ding! This lucky draw costs 50 merit points. Thank you for trying, you have received 1 luck point. In the blink of an eye, his merit points were almost gone. He got nothing but thank you for trying, while he had accumulated a total of 33 luck points. I think I understand now, these are not luck points but bad luck points, right? Looking at the merit points on the interface, which showed 104, Lu Zhou said, "Fine, I admit defeat." But since there was nothing he could do or buy with so little merit points. Lucky draw. Ding! This lucky draw costs 50 merit points and 33 luck points. You have received a cultivation technique, 3 scrolls of heaven writing, an avatar, 3 condensing flowers, reversal cards x10. Lu Zhou looked at the system panel in surprise, unable to believe that he had won the prize when he was least expecting it. He took a while to calm down and then glanced at the items he won from the lucky draw. They were amazing. If he were to purchase himself, a 3 condensing flowers avatar would cost him 3,000 merit points while 10 reversal cards would require 5,000 merit points. In addition to them, he also won a cultivation technique called the 3 Scrolls of Heaven Writing. He noticed that in the field of cultivation techniques on the right side of the panel, the radio button in front of the 3 Scrolls of Heaven Writing was lit. At a thought, 3 scrolls of writing unfolded, one after another. The first one was called the Human Scroll of Heaven Writing. The Human Scroll is the prologue of Heaven Writing, and it is also called the Nether Book of 3 Lives. When one cultivates it to the highest level, one can comprehend the secret of life and death and master transmigration. Lu Zhou frowned slightly, because the contents that followed were all messy writing like meaningless symbols. He did not understand any of them. He could not even understand the prologue, not to mention the other 2 scrolls. He leafed through them and found that the system had simply dimmed the contents. Great, you do live up to your name, the heaven writing that cannot be read. After that, Lu Zhou turned his attention to the 10 reversal cards. According to the rate at which each card could give him about 300 days of life force, he had just won himself nearly 10 years of life. It was truly a jackpot. I have to use them now. Soon, 10 reversal cards began to disappear, one after another. Meanwhile, winds gusted and clouds rolled wildly over the gazebo while a tremendous amount of energy gathered into a whirlwind and poured into Lu Zhou's body. Lu Zhou could clearly feel the restoring of his life force, and it was stronger and more copious than what he had experienced before. Gradually, his sagging skin began to firm up, and his stiff limbs had also become more flexible than before. The addition of 3,000 days of life seemed to have injected a tremendous vitality into his body. For a long time, Lu Zhou immersed himself in the comfortable feeling. Ever since he had traveled to this world, he had not had such a pleasant feeling, the feeling of being young. Even his white hair were flecked with gray now. He also felt that the activities in his Sea of Qi and Dantian, which were filled with energy brought by the 3 condensing flowers avatar. Although it was nowhere near as much as the energy brought by the peak form experience card, it was still far stronger than before. Moreover, the avatar had also increased his cultivation base to the chi refining and soul forming stage of the sense condensing realm. Name, Lu Zhou. Race, human. Cultivation base, the chi refining and soul forming stage of the sense condensing realm. Merit points, 54. Avatar, 3 condensing flowers. Remaining life, 4,509 days. Items, Jietiandao Peak Form Card X2, Critical Block Card, Passive, X3 Wizard. Cultivation techniques. 3 Scrolls of Heaven Writing. Note: the cultivating of the heaven writing is not the same as any other cultivation techniques in the cultivation world. The host can enlighten extraordinary power while reading it. Enlighten? Is this how the heaven writing is cultivated? Although Lu Zhou could not cultivate any of the techniques in his memory, he had the experience and knowledge of cultivating them. Even then, this was the first time he had heard of such a cultivating method. In the world of Great Yin, cultivators began their journey with the tempering of their bodies. They stepped into the body tempering realm, cultivated their tendons, bones and skin, and broke through 9 stages into the mystic enlightening realm. Then, they advanced through the 5 apertures of heart, mouth, nose, eye and ear of the mystic enlightening realm into the sense condensing realm, broke through the 3 stages into the Brahma sea realm, and finally opened 8 meridians and stepped into the divine court realm. A cultivator was considered a grand cultivator when he stepped into the divine court realm. There were only 3 levels of grand cultivators: the divine court realm, the nascent divinity tribulation realm, and the mysterious heaven saint realm. From the ancient times, cultivators who truly stepped into the mysterious heaven saint realm only existed in the legends. Nobody had seen them. It was said that only by stepping into this realm could a cultivator break free of the limit of lifespan and become immortal. Ji Tiandao was just 1 step away when he died in the gazebo. It was a pity. Open the quest menu. Current main quest: Tame the Villainous Disciples. Side quest number 1: Discipline the 8th disciple, Zhu Honggong. Side quest number 2: Investigate Zhou Jifeng. Executor, Duamu Sheng. It seems that at the moment, taming and disciplining villainous disciples and assigning tasks are the most important ways to obtain merit points, Lu Zhou murmured to himself. He was thinking about how he could obtain more merit points. In addition to that, he could kill evil people. However, nobody would stand in front of him and let him kill without putting up a fight. Fortunately, he could still obtain merit points from the tasks completed by his disciples. Lu Zhou suddenly thought of his disciples. The 8th disciple, Zhu Honggong, is rather slow-witted, so he should be the easiest to tame. But why hasn't he shown any loyalty to me? Judging from the information brought back by Mingshi Yin, the 8th disciple should have been incited by the 7th disciple. Old 7th was good at calculation, so if he wished to gain a foothold in the cultivation world, he should have already established a good connection with the eldest and 2nd eldest disciple. Lu Zhou found that it was far from enough to tame and discipline a certain disciple at a time. Only when his strength was improved could he deter his villainous disciples and those orthodox cultivators. But at present, his cultivation base was still too weak. It's a little tricky to solve this situation. Lu Zhou shook his head. After all, Golden Court Mountain remained a major target for the world to attack. After pondering for a moment, he decided to study the heaven writing first and think about the rest later. For the next 2 days, he shut himself in seclusion inside Evil Sky Pavilion, studying the heaven writing while little Yuaner waited outside for him to come out of seclusion. Meanwhile, at the Derived Moon Palace, Yi Tianxin, the palace master of the Derived Moon Palace, lay on a mat behind a screen of gauze, gently waving the feather fan in her hand. She had a curvy and slender body, fair skin, and a small comely face. Through her appearance, it was hard to imagine that this palace master was Yi Tianxin, who ranked 9th on the black roll and was the 6th disciple of the greatest old villain in the world. She opened her eyes slightly and looked at a figure outside the screen as she chuckled and said, "You should have left Golden Court Mountain long ago and not waited until now, senior sister." The figure was Zhao Yu, who was ranked 28th on the black roll and was the 5th disciple of the great villain. "Well, I was not as lucky as you, junior sister. I thought I could get something from that old thing, but I didn't expect him to be so stingy. Ever since you left the sect, he has never trusted us," said Zhao Yu. "I've already told you this, senior sister. Although you joined the sect before me, there are things that you don't see," Yi Tianxin said with a smile. "I wonder how many treasures the old man hid, a pity that they are about to be buried in a grave together with him." Yi Tianxin laughed in a clear and melodious voice before she said, "I can give senior sister an idea." "Oh? What idea?" "The old man has always doted on little junior sister. You can use her to try his bottom line. Third and fourth senior brothers are showing signs of disloyalty, so he will not trust them completely. Only little junior sister can stay close and protect him. Yes, he does have some secret drug and trump cards, but those things cannot compare to a living person. Zhao Yu was taken aback when she heard the idea. If truth be told, she would never dare to threaten her master with their little junior sister. She feared that if he were provoked, he would use his trump cards to kill her, just like what he did to Luo Changfeng. Senior sister, you are afraid? No, I'm not, Zhao Yu denied. Yes, you are afraid, senior sister. Do you remember how that old thing treated us in the past? You must be cruel and not soft-hearted. Zhao Yu said, I understand everything you say, but the problem is, even eldest senior brother wouldn't dare do it. If I did this and angered the old man, it would be my death. Senior sister, you've been on the mountain for too long and it has slowed your wits. Yi Tianxin got out of the bed. The cold expression on her charming face gave her an unusual attractiveness. Who said you have to do it yourself? You. Zhao Yu's eyes widened as she watched her sixth junior sister walk out of the screen. You are still afraid, senior sister. Yi Tianxin smiled and said, look at eldest senior brother, second senior brother, and me. Aren't we still alive and kicking? I admit that the old thing does have trump cards, but he is very cautious and he won't use them easily. Otherwise, do you think he would spare our lives? It also proves that his trump cards are limited. Besides, he is growing older, so his sea of qi is getting drier. When the time comes, he will be filled with hatred and use all his trump cards. It will be most dangerous to stay with him. That swayed Zhao Yu slightly and she said, you have a point there. So, the pressing matter at the moment is to use a trick to find out about his trump cards. In the worst case, if he knows that we are behind it, we can just avoid him. Yes, we may be no match for him, but we can wait until he dies, said Yi Tianxin with a dangerous smile. It was safe to say that Yi Tianxin had not relied on her cultivation base alone to have her current status, but also her cunning wisdom. No wonder even old 7th praised 6th junior sister for her cleverness when we were together on the mountain. Although Zhao Yu was her senior sister, there was a big gap between their cultivation bases and Yi Tianxin had a heaven-grade weapon, the amorous hoop. As a result, she was weaker than her junior sister. Senior sister, stay in Derived Moon Palace for the time being. When you make a decision, I'll definitely help you in every way possible. All right. Sorry to trouble you, junior sister. After staying in seclusion for 2 days, Lu Zhou still did not come out on the 3rd day, nor the 4th day. He almost scratched his scalp bloody from studying the human scroll of heaven writing. He could understand the summary on the title page, but he failed to comprehend the meaning of the rest. Lu Zhou felt that the difficulty to understand them was 100 times more painful than reading and comprehending classical Chinese writings in the college entrance exam. To get the mental intelligence of others, we should know that there is no difference in the hearts of the people in the 3,000 worlds. They are like one world. To get the divine power of an unobstructed, pure heaven eye, we should know that the so-called. Lu Zhou's brows frowned slightly when he read that, and he said to himself, this is somewhat similar to Taoism among the hundreds of schools of thought on earth. In his previous life, Lu Zhou did not study these things and he only knew that they existed. But, even if he did study them, he might not comprehend them at all because most of them were too mysterious and somewhat abstract like philosophy. At times, they sounded like nonsense that made sense no matter where they were used. Is this the extraordinary power of heaven writing? Lu Zhou scratched his head. Master, you have been staying in seclusion for 4 days. 4th senior brother was here to see you yesterday, but I did not dare to disturb you, so I've asked him to leave. Lu Zhou closed the heaven writings interface in the system when he heard that. Time had flown by. Reading the heaven writing was a boring process, at least in his opinion. Yet, he did not expect that 4 days had passed in the blink of an eye. Did old 4th mention anything? No. He should have encountered problems while cultivating the last part of the bluewood technique. Lu Zhou slowly rose to his feet and touched his gray and white hair. His face was a little ruddier than before. The moment he walked out of the chamber, little Yuana's eyes grew wide as she stared at him and said incredulously, "Ma master." His expression was calm and he stood there with hands clasped behind his back. He was 10 years younger. Although the change in his appearance was somewhat obvious, the lofty air of an old villain was still in his bones. "Master, you've grown younger," said little Yuana. Lu Zhou said faintly, "The reason I shut myself in seclusion is not only to improve my cultivation base, but also for the sake of this old body. You've been working hard these days." Hee. This is my duty as master's disciple. I believe Master can definitely make the breakthrough and become the first cultivator in the world of Great Yin who steps into the mysterious Heaven Saint realm. Lu Zhou laughed and asked, did old Third send back any letters these days? He had not heard any prompt from the system about the task he had assigned to the disciple. With Duamuxing's cultivation base, it should not be difficult to investigate Zhou Jifeng. However, a few days had passed and he had not heard the system's prompt. Even so, Duamuxing should have reported the progress with a letter. Why was there no news from him at all? Senior brother did not send back any letters. This is strange. Lu Zhou stroked his beard as he walked slowly out of Evil Sky Pavilion. Outside, the sky was bright and clear, with the sun shining dazzlingly. Master, could third senior brother be the same as senior sister Zhao Yu? Little Yuano said worriedly. No, that's impossible. Lu Zhou lifted a hand and stopped her. He knew Duamuxing's loyalty was over 70%, not as low as Zhao Yu's. And if he deserted the sect, the system should have prompted him. But he heard nothing from the system, and that meant Duamuxing had not deserted yet. Then why is he not reporting back? Lu Zhou pondered silently. Little Yuano said, Master, I also don't think third senior brother will betray the sect. He is an honest man and would not do such a treacherous thing. Lu Zhou did not say a word. It was impossible to judge a man's heart from his face. Unless their loyalty reached 80% and above, he would not trust them completely. After all, Zhao Yu's loyalty was 60%, and yet she still deserted the sect. In this world, it was extremely hard to predict one's mind. He had to be on guard at all times. Right at that moment, little Yuano pointed at a figure flying over in the sky and said, Fourth senior brother is here. Mingxirin wheeled in the air over them as fast as a bolt of lightning. If he were in his peak form, Lu Zhou would not feel strange upon seeing this speed. But his current cultivation base was too far away from the divine court realm. He has almost completely comprehended the last part of the Bluewood technique. Lu Zhou envied the amazing talents of these villainous disciples. Mingxirin went into a nosedive. As he descended, he saw Lu Zhou, whose aura had changed, and his heart trembled. Is that, Master? The change in Lu Zhou's appearance had only slightly surprised Mingxirin, but the aura frightened him completely. And when that was coupled with the seed of fear Tianda had planted in his heart, he felt a chill run down his back. He hurriedly landed on the ground and dropped to one knee as he cupped his fist and said, Greetings, Master. You may rise. Yes, Master. I can see that you have almost completely comprehended the last part of the Bluewood technique. The cultivation technique you are practicing is a wood element technique, which has the ability to give you extra life force. Make good use of this advantage and don't neglect your practice, Lu Zhou said faintly. Thank you for the guidance, Master. I will remember it. His loyalty increased by 2%. Mingxirin looked calm on the outside, but he was extremely shocked in his heart. Ever since Yi Tianqin left Golden Court Mountain, Ji Tiandao had stopped guiding his disciples. He even gave little Yuana, whom he doted on the most, just a book of cultivation technique and rarely talked to her. Mingxirin did not expect that under the situation where almost everyone was deserting, his master would still be so generous as to provide him guidance. That truly startled him. Master, when I was practicing the Bluewood technique, I flew over Anyang and heard a piece of news. Tell me. It seems that the people of the CI family, which is also little junior sister's family, have been kidnapped by someone again, and Mingxirin reported. Ah? Little Yuano's eyes grew wide, and she frowned her brows in anger. I volunteer myself to investigate this matter, and I'll definitely find out the culprit and get rid of them once and for all, said Mingxirin with a cold and fierce look. When she heard that, little Yuano dropped to her knees and said, Master, let me handle it this time. After all, they were her family, so it was perfectly normal for her to be panicked. But Lu Zhou did not agree to her request immediately. Mingxirin was indeed more experienced in handling this matter, and his cultivation base was stronger as well. It would seem safer to let him attend to this. Just then, a carrier pigeon flew over. Yuan-ia. At that, little Yuano flew into the sky as swiftly as a swallow and caught the pigeon. Master, a letter from third senior brother. Read it. Master, when I went to the Heavenly Sword sect to investigate, I found that their sect leader position was temporarily vacant and that Zhou Jifeng had left the sect. After investigating further, I discovered that he had joined the righteous sect. The sect leader of the righteous sect, Zhang Yuanshan, appointed him as one of the sect's 4 elders, making him the youngest elder of the sect. Due to Zhang Yuanshan's profound cultivation base, I didn't go deep into the righteous sect, but, from the information I gathered, Zhang Yuanshan publicly insulted Master several times and declared to the cultivation world that his sect was at odds with Golden Court Mountain. When she came to that, little Yuano stopped reading and glanced at Lu Zhou. Lu Zhou's face was calm as if he were not surprised at all. Too many people in this world hate me, and adding one more will not change that. He took that lightly. If he could solve the crisis of being besieged by the top 10 experts, a righteous sect was nothing to be concerned about. When I was investigating at the Bamboo Mountain, the headquarters of the righteous sect, I fought a fierce battle with their second elder, Dudafang, and won. A pity that I failed to kill that devious guy. Little Yuana paused once again and furrowed her brows. As soon as I get my condition adjusted, I plan to visit the righteous sect at night and assassinate Zhang Yuanshan to help Master vent the anger. When she had finished, little Yuana cupped her fist toward Lu Zhou and said, Master, that Dudafang is a divine court expert after all. I reckon third senior brother must have been wounded by him. Ming Shirin was somewhat surprised as well, and he said, third senior brother is risking his life. Under Zhang Yuanshan, Dudafang was the strongest expert of the righteous sect. His cultivation base was at the perfected stage of the divine court realm, just one step away from the nascent divinity tribulation realm. When Ji Tiandao was jointly attacked by the top 10 experts, he was the one who led hundreds of cultivators to attack Ji Tiandao's disciples. Duamuxing had always hated this man. But Duamuxing was overreaching himself by planning to assassinate Zhang Yuanshan. While stroking his beard, Lu Zhou said, Old Third looks like a simple guy, but he is courageous, wise, and has his own ideas. The sect leader of the righteous sect, Zhang Yuanshan, had already stepped into the nascent divinity tribulation realm hundreds of years ago. Although your third senior brother is a divine court expert, he is one realm weaker from Zhang Yuanshan. He would be digging his own grave if he really carried out the assassination. Then why did senior brother mention that? I asked little Yuana. Ming Shirin said, Zhao Yu has just deserted. I understand now. Third senior brother is using that to show his loyalty. Hehe. Master, you're right. It seems that I'm a much simpler guy than him. Oh. Little Yuano did not fully understand. It could be seen that Duamuxing's understanding of Lu Zhou was still based on Ji Tiandao's image. If Ji Tiandao were still here, he would no doubt make Duamuxing take risks and visit the righteous sect at night. But even if he really went, Duamuxing would definitely put his safety as the utmost priority and pretend to be injured. In this way, the rift between the master and the disciple would grow larger, eventually forming a vicious cycle. After considering for a moment, Lu Zhou said, Old Fourth, I was going to make you fix the arrays of Golden Court Mountain, because the shield can stop experts of the nascent divinity tribulation realm, but now, Old Third has this task and I want you to help him. After this is over, stay on the mountain and focus on your cultivation. I will give you all heaven-grade treasures. If the shield were still not repaired, the eldest and second disciple would most likely instigate orthodox sects to attack Golden Court Mountain again, and just those orthodox experts would be enough to give Lu Zhou a headache. Ming Shirin was overjoyed, and he hurriedly went down on his knees and said, Yes, Master. I understand, Master. If he could get a heaven-grade treasure, he would be more than willing to stay on the mountain for 5 years or even 10 years, not to mention just 3 years. Many cultivators had failed to obtain a heaven-grade treasure until their death. His eldest senior brother, Yu Zhenghai, owned the Jasper Saber, and had used it to lop off the heads of tens of thousands of cultivators, making a name for himself. It was said that the difference between a cultivator with and without a heaven-grade treasure was like a grandfather and a grandson, where the former could easily teach the latter a hard lesson. For many years, Ji Tiandao had been extremely cautious about giving out heaven-grade treasures, and Ming Shirin did not expect that he would promise to reward them with heaven-grade treasures at this critical moment. How could he not be excited? His loyalty increased by 5% instantly. Master, what about little junior sister's family? This matter is not simple. I'll make a decision after discussing with little Yuano. I understand. I'm leaving now to support third senior brother. When we complete the task, we will return to Golden Court Mountain at once to repair the shield. Go now. Ming Shirin turned and left, and at the same time, Lu Zhou saw the task appear in the task menu. Master, why do you seem to take that Zhou Jifeng seriously? There's nothing special about him, asked little Yuana curiously. The reason I spared his life when he tried to assassinate me is that I want him to find out the Heavenly Sword sect's true colors, so that he can become a great threat to them when he grows stronger. Even if he chooses not to submit under Golden Court Mountain, he will be at odds with the Heavenly Sword sect sooner or later. I just want to make sure he's still alive. Little Yuano smiled and said, Master, you used to finish your enemy by killing them directly, but now I know how to use my brain, is that what you are trying to say? Little Yuano stuck out her tongue and did not dare to continue. Lu Zhou laughed. Well, I'm not blaming you. He was killing two birds with one stone by doing so. The first thing he wished to achieve was discipline his villainous disciples with carrots and sticks and pull them over to his side, while the second was to preserve Golden Court Mountain's strength. Although his disciples were evil, Golden Court Mountain's strength would greatly reduce without them. If he did not give them weapons, they would be like toothless tigers. As for dealing with the top 10 sects, it was far too early to do that right now. Master, are you going to let me handle the matter of the CI family? Lu Zhou said in a faint voice, this matter is not as simple as it seems. The reason why I didn't let your fourth senior brother handle it is that I'm worried that he would solve it too simply and crudely. He learned that from the way Mingxirin handled the previous kidnapping. The fourth disciple was almost imitating Ji Tiandao in the way he handled it. He killed all the mounted brigands, rescued the people, and that was it. He was not even serious about finding out the culprit behind the incident. Master, please help my family. Little Yuano knelt and pleaded. Apart from Little Yuano, Lu Zhou had no one else he could use on Golden Court Mountain. So he said, I will go to Anyang myself. What? Master, you want to handle this yourself? Little Yuano was taken aback. The master had not left Golden Court Mountain for a long time. Although nobody had said anything, everyone vaguely guessed that it was due to physical reasons. She did not expect that he would leave the mountain because of the CI family. As a result, Little Yuano's loyalty increased by 5%. This matter must not be leaked out. Also, leave a letter to inform your senior brothers that they must keep it a secret, and that if there's anything else, I will send them letters with carrier pigeons. I understand, Master. By doing so, Lu Zhou could not only send orders to his disciples across long distance, but also put himself in a safe place. As long as he slightly tidied up his current appearance, no one would know or believe that he was the old villain of Golden Court Mountain. Besides, with Little Yuano following him, he would be much safer than staying on the mountain. Wizard. At the call, a sheet of auspicious light lit up the sky, and then a magnificent mount appeared, wheeling in the air for a moment before slowly descending. Master, you have changed your mount? Little Yuano blurted out. Lu Zhou said calmly, come on up. I dare not ride on Master's mount. It's fine. You can sit in front of me. We can arrive at Anyang in less than 2 hours. The flying speed of a divine court expert was fast, but it was still much slower than a flying mount. Moreover, it took energy for a cultivator to fly. To win against a flying mount, one would have to use a divine ability like Soul Chase. But these divine abilities usually consume more energy, so they were not suitable for traveling. Little Yuano jumped on Wizard with apprehension, but she was immediately amazed by its soft feathers and seemingly glowing horns. There were many kinds of mounts. Ordinary fierce beasts tended to be slow and were more suitable for pulling goods. On the other hand, superior mounts usually existed only in rich and powerful families, and the rest were epic and legendary mounts. For most cultivators, it was already considered an astonishing achievement to capture and tame a legendary mount like Wizard, let alone ride one. There was a saying in the cultivation world, if you don't own a legendary mount at birth, you won't have one for the rest of your life. Of course, it was just a joke about the difficulty of obtaining legendary mounts. Sit tight. Lu Zhou lifted his right arm and put it around Little Yuano's shoulders. Wizard gave a loud cry, which echoed throughout the whole Golden Court Mountain, scattering birds and wild beasts. Then it leaped into the air and flew toward Anyang while stepping on auspicious clouds. 2 hours later, Lu Zhou controlled Wizard to descend slowly over a forest near the outskirts of Anyang. Little Yuano was shocked, and she could not calm down for a long time after landing. We have arrived. Lu Zhou glanced at the city and jumped off Wizard. He was pretty much able to move around freely now. Little Yuano, he called when he saw Little Yuano still sitting in a daze. Those words finally woke her. Master. Then, she jumped off the Wizard and said, I didn't mean it, but the Wizard is too beautiful. Beautiful. It seemed that girls all over the world looked at things from the same angle. Yes, I've never seen such a beautiful mount before. We have arrived. I need to put away the mount before it attracts unwanted attention. Also, your attire and aura is special, so you need to change slightly. Although Little Yuano was not as famous as her senior brothers and sisters in the cultivation world, she was known by some. Since they were going to investigate the kidnapping of the CI family, she would naturally have to hide her identity. I understand, master. She immediately concealed her aura just like her master. After that, they walked to a nearby farmhouse and changed into the clothing of common people. That made them look like a pair of grandfather and granddaughter. Ehe. Master, you look more like a farmer now. Little Yuano covered her mouth with a hand and laughed. It doesn't matter, Alujo waved and said. From now on, you and I will be a pair of grandfather and grandchild. I understand, master. What? Ugh, grandpa. Little Yuana felt awkward having to call her master grandpa, but it did not take long for her to become playful and keep calling him that. Lujo was somewhat speechless at first. After all, he was only 28 years old in his previous life and he felt rather embarrassed to be called a grandpa. But he soon got used to it and gradually felt nothing. Luckily, I have a system that can let me grow younger. Otherwise, I would rather not travel to this dimension. After entering the city, Lujo and little Yuano glanced around. The streets of Anyang were quite lively, packed with jugglers, storytellers, and stalls selling all kinds of things. I didn't expect Anyang to be so prosperous, Lujo praised. Ehe. Grandpa, this is so fun. Little Yuana hopped through the crowd and grabbed a stick of sugar-coated haws from a stall before hopping away. Hey, little girl, you haven't paid me money. Cried the vendor as he rushed toward her. Little Yuano turned around and snarled, Go away. It is your blessing that I am trying your haws. If you make another sound, I'll rip your mouth apart. That frightened the vendor. He had never seen such a fierce little girl before. Yuan. Grandpa, in the blink of an eye, little Yuano transformed into a gentle girl. Pay him. But Grandpa, he is so fierce. I listened to you and never beat him for that. Little Yuano pursed her lips as if she had been wronged. Lujo shook his head. He reckoned that these villainous disciples must be used to robbing things from others, so they did not even know the basic principles of treating and dealing with others now. Well, I'll have to teach them slowly. If everybody robs things from others like you, who would want to make sugar-coated haws again? Oh. Little Yuano had no choice but to pay the vendor. Ding. You have disciplined little Yuano and are rewarded with 100 merit points. As they continued down the street, they saw a group of young people crowded ahead. Lujo pointed at them and said, Go and have a look. Right away, Grandpa. Little Yuano enjoyed crowds very much, so she hopped over promptly. However, it was too crowded for her to squeeze through the people, so she stomped her foot angrily, crushing the ground and making a hole in it. Get out of the way. Scared by her fierce attitude, the men on both sides took a step back. A body tempering expert. She kicked a hole in the ground. She must be at least a 5th-tier body tempering expert. Heavens! She's just a little girl. Why is she so strong? The crowd parted in the middle, giving her a way through. Lujo shook his head lightly when he saw that. It seemed that little Yuano's temper was far more violent than when she was on the mountain. No wonder the group of villainous disciples always wanted to leave Golden Court Mountain to carry out tasks, because it was free and more comfortable to go out than to stay on the mountain. As the crowd parted, little Yuano saw what had attracted so many people. There was a table with 3 men sitting behind it, each having a saber hanging on his waist. The bearded man in the middle glanced at little Yuano as he nodded approvingly and said, Not bad. Little girl, have you come here to join our sect as well? What? You have an amazing foundation and the kick just now shows that your cultivation base is at the 5th tier of the body tempering realm at the least. Well, register yourself. From today on, you will be a member of the Azure Dragon Association's Anyang division, said the man. When did I say I want to join your stinking dragon association? Little Yuano found it puzzling. You are bold, little girl. How dare you insult the Azure Dragon Association? Little Yuano swaggered up before lifting one foot and stepping on the table, crushing it in an instant. What is Azure Dragon Association? What are you doing here? Tell me now, my grandpa is waiting. Who is this wild girl? You are here to mess things up, aren't you? How could you not know about the Azure Dragon Association? The man was about to attack when Lujo walked over and said, Stop it. His voice was not loud, but it was mixed with a little bit of energy and it could be clearly heard by the man. Interesting, old man, you are a 7th or 8th tier body tempering expert? The man looked curiously at Lujo. Lujo paid him no mind and said, Yuano, you can make the Azure Dragon Association and Anyang help with the investigation. Little Yuano's eyes lit up. I understand, Grandpa. Then she turned around as she replaced her smile with a fierce look and said, the few of you come over here. Ha, I bet this wild girl doesn't know that Azure Dragon Association is backed by the Nether sect. What? The Nether sect? That gave little Yuano a pause and she turned to look at her master. The sect leader of the Nether sect was her eldest senior brother. So she kept peeking nervously at her master for fear that he would get angry. Are you afraid now? Luzhou frowned slightly as he turned to look at the man and asked, Did you say the Azure Dragon Association is backed by the Nether sect? Exactly. Old man, you look good to me. Join us and be a cook. You will eat and drink well, and the Azure Dragon Association will shelter you. The Nether sect was considered the largest sect in today's cultivation world, with tens of thousands of members. It had become the terror of orthodox sects, as well as a common enemy of all the orthodox cultivators in the world. It was unexpected that an object of hatred such as this showed no fear and was openly recruiting new members. Is this your granddaughter, old man? Well, her potential is much greater than yours and she is beautiful. But I can talk to our chief and let both of you join us together, the man said with a sly smile. Master is not talking, I think he's angry now. Master said that we can't simply kill people, but he didn't say we can't hit people. Thinking that, little Yuana bolted over as she raised her leg and kicked the man in the chest. The man flew backward like a football as he threw his head back and spewed out a mouthful of blood. He crashed through 3 stalls and flew about 10 meters on the ground before stopping. The kick had almost killed him. That stunned the nearby common people and they quickly moved backward with fear. Does she have no respect for the laws? Unfortunately, if she knew anything about laws, she would not be little Yuana. Who gave you the right to call my grandpa an old man? Little Yuana put down her leg and said angrily. How dare you attack us, said one of the 2 remaining members of the Azure Dragon Association. I not only dare to attack you but also dare to kill you. As she said that, a faint ripple of energy emanated out of her body. The 2 men exchanged a look and blurted out, "A mystic and lightning expert." A body tempering expert was strong only in physique, but a mystic and lightning expert began to open the 5 apertures and could pour primordial chi into them to produce energy. Only after reaching the mystic and lightning realm could a person be considered a real cultivator. Plop! Both men dropped to their knees at the same time and cried out, "Please spare our lives, my lady." Little Yuana shook her head as she snorted and said, "Why should I?" She was lifting her fist when Luzhou walked over and said, "You've done a good job, Yuana." The compliment made little Yuana laugh happily, and she said, "Hee hee. I was angry at them for calling you an old man, so I thought I should teach them a lesson." Luzhou looked at the 2 men and glanced around. In fact, he was not concerned about their life and death, but that their death would attract unwanted attention. Where are the headquarters of the Azure Dragon Association's branch? He asked. 3 miles north of Anyang's River. I've just arrived in Anyang, so I'm not familiar with the people and places here. Go back and tell your chief that I will call on him personally tomorrow. I will. Now get out of my sight. Hearing that, both men stood up and helped their wounded companion before fleeing the scene. Master, it is very thoughtful of you to ask them where their headquarters are, so that we can destroy them all in one go, said little Yuano in a low voice. Luzhou smiled as he lightly knocked her on the forehead and said, "What nonsense are you talking about? I just want to use them to investigate the kidnapping of the CI family." Ouch! I'm sorry, Master. Do you still remember where your home is? Luzhou asked. I only remember that there are 2 stone lions at the front door. My father likes to practice with sabers and spears while my mother likes embroidery best. No, my mom likes me best, said little Yuana. Of Jitiandao's disciples, some he took from their parents with force while others were sent to him by their parents voluntarily. Luzhou only remembered that little Yuana was very small when her parents sent her to Golden Court Mountain and he did not know the reason why they wanted to send her over. Why would any parent want to send their children into a wolf den? The CI family was not hard to find. There were not many wealthy families with the surname of CI, and since Anyang was not large, they found it after asking around. When they arrived in front of its door, little Yuana was so excited that she kept jumping over the heads of the 2 stone lions like a rabbit. Master, these are the lions I told you about. They are exactly the same as in my memory. Now that you are home, don't be so playful. Come down. Oh. Right then, Luzhou noticed that a side quest of investigating the kidnapping appeared in the quest menu. The door squeaked as they slowly swung open, revealing a middle-aged man dressed like a steward who looked at them quizzically. Who are you looking for? Where are my father and mother? Little Yuana peered through the door, eager to see her parents. The steward frowned. Who are you, little girl? Your parents are not here. Buck. Little Yuano slapped the man in the face. You asked for it. Now get out of my grandpa's way. The steward covered his cheek with one hand and trembled all over. Lu Zhou did not know whether to laugh or cry, but at the same time, he felt nothing wrong about the way she handled it. Sometimes, too much attention to courtesy would greatly affect efficiency. Like the most filial granddaughter, little Yuano helped Lu Zhou into the mansion. The mansion was empty. They saw no servants or maids, and even the tables, chairs, and other furniture were taken away. The whole interior looked rather sad and desolate. It looks like your fourth senior brother's news is true, Lu Zhou said faintly. Little Yuano pointed at the steward and said angrily, You come here. Ah? Where are my father and mother? The question put a blank expression on the steward's face. Little Yuano had grown up, and she looked very different from when she was little. So the steward could not recognize her. Lu Zhou asked, What's your name? I am Wang Fugue, the steward of the CI family, the man stammered while still holding his cheek with one hand. Where is Cian? I thought he is the steward. Little Yuano only remembered that man who went to Golden Court Mountain for help after the first kidnapping happened. They were all kidnapped. She is Ci Yuano, the young lady of the Ci family. Lu Zhou pointed at little Yuano. Ah? Wang Fugue swallowed and looked little Yuano up and down. A brief moment later, his eyes lit up as he dropped to his knees and kowtowed. Young miss. You have finally come back. I am Wang Fugue. Wang Fugue? Little Yuano scratched her head. Let's talk inside. In the main hall of the mansion. After listening to Wang Fugue's explanation of the incident, Lu Zhou and little Yuano learned that most of the Ci family members had been kidnapped by a gang called Lakeside Gang. No one knew what background this gang had, who ordered them to do it, or where they were located. Because the Ci family had been kidnapped 2 times in a row, nobody dared to work for them anymore, so the remaining servants and maids had all fled with the valuable things of the family. Wang Fugue was the last person in the mansion. Why didn't you report this to local authorities? Asked Lu Zhou. I did, but they couldn't find any traces. All the people in the Ci family were kidnapped except those who were outside for tasks. I was lucky to have escaped because I was in a privy. Then why didn't you run away? Little Yuano asked. The Ci family had treated me well. I will live and die as a member of the Ci family. Lu Zhou said with a smile, You are very loyal to the family. Fortunately, Yuano didn't kill you. Wang Fugue felt a sharp pain in his face, but he said embarrassedly, I deserve to be slapped by young Mississippi. You must keep Yuano's return a secret. I'll investigate the kidnapping and rescue them, Lu Zhou said. Ah? Although Lu Zhou had become much younger, he still looked old and frail. Apart from his imposing manner, he appeared like an old man anyone could knock over with a slap. Wang Fugue only knew that little Yuano was sent away by her father, but he did not know where she was sent to, for what purpose, or the fact that her master was the infamous old villain. Leave us now. Wang Fugue dared not question Lu Zhou. Even though Lu Zhou was an old man, he could tell that he was respected by little Yuano. So he nodded and took his leave. Yuan. Yes, master. Go to the Azure Dragon Association tomorrow morning and ask them to find out more about this so-called Lakeside Gang. I understand, master. Remember, don't reveal your identity. I understand, master. As soon as he assigned the task, Lu Zhou heard the system prompt. Ding! The task of supporting Duamuxing is completed. You are rewarded with 200 merit points. Mingxirin had completed the supporting task and should have gone to fix the shield. Lu Zhou frowned slightly as he watched the tasks change in the system. When he left Golden Court Mountain, the task he gave was for the 2 of them to repair the shield together, but it only showed Mingxirin alone in the system. There was only one possibility, Duamuxing was injured. Meanwhile at Golden Court Mountain, Mingxirin, together with Duamuxing lying in bed, looked at little Yuano's letter with a puzzled look. I can't believe master left the mountain. What is he thinking? Duamuxing coughed and said, Perhaps it is because he has stayed on the mountain for too long and wants to go out for a walk, but he doesn't want to be identified. That does make sense. Master has been acting so out of line these days that I can't figure out what he thinks, Mingxirin sighed. In the past, Master had absolute strength, so he did not like to use his brain. All tricks are meaningless struggles in the face of absolute power after all. Perhaps the task of repairing the shield will have to be done by yourself, junior brother. I'm afraid that my injury won't heal in 3 to 5 months. No way. Mingxirin said sulkily, you better not go too far in pretending. You and I were both beaten from childhood to adulthood, and we have suffered injuries more serious than this. You are really clever, junior brother, said Duamuxing with an embarrassed smile. 10 days. If you are still lying in bed after 10 days, I'll stop fixing the shield. When master comes back, you will be taught a lesson, said Mingxirin as he folded his arms over his chest. I don't need 10 days. 7 days are more than enough. Junior brother, you may leave me now. I need to heal myself. It is not so appropriate for two single men to stay in the same room. Bah! Mingxirin turned and left his senior brother. It was already night outside, and the moon hung high up in the sky. Mingxirin looked up at the night sky and murmured to himself, what exactly are you thinking, master? Wait, is that a letter? He leaped up into the sky and caught a carrier bird. After reading the letter, he furrowed his brow slightly and said in surprise, how did master know that third senior brother is injured? He glanced around and spread his divine sense out to cover the void hundreds of meters around him. Apart from some birds perched on tree branches, he sensed no other creatures or people. Mingxirin was uneasy and nervous, and he had a feeling that his master was watching him from a nearby corner. So, he went down on his knees and said, Master, I didn't mean to be rude to you. Rest assured, I'll certainly work hard to fix the shield and take good care of Golden Court Mountain. The surroundings were quiet and dark, so he rose to his feet and breathed a sigh of relief. Don't panic. As long as I follow master's way, I'll be fine. Ding! You have disciplined Mingxirin and are rewarded with 100 merit points. Mingxirin's loyalty increased by 2%. Lu Zhou sat cross-legged in a room and was reading the human scroll of heaven writing. He had become accustomed to inexplicable system prompts. No matter what had caused the increase, it was a piece of pleasant news to hear. To gain the power to look into the future, we should know that we cannot say anything about the future. The power to hear everything, so that we can hear voices in all realms at will. The power of speech, which can change the world with words and free the common people from sufferings. Lu Zhou closed the Heaven Writings interface. That was the only readable content in the human scroll, while the rest were still unrecognizable symbols. I remember when I read the human scroll the first time, only the title page was readable. But now I can read 2 more pages. Is it because both my lifespan and cultivation base have improved? The purpose of cultivating heaven writing was to improve the cultivation base, but he could only read the content after his cultivation base was improved. It seemed to be putting the cart before the horse. You are purposely making things difficult for me, aren't you? Lu Zhou felt the energy within him. Since he stepped into the sense-condensing realm, he had absorbed a lot of energy with the help of his avatar. But, in the face of a divine court expert, he was still as weak as an ant. The night was long, and he seemed to have nothing else to do but read. The words lucky draw flashed in his mind, but he immediately shook his head. It is an addictive game, and I should wait until I have more merit points. The next morning, at the Azure Dragon Association's headquarters near the Gu River. You mean the person who wounded you is a little girl who looks like she is only 15 or 16 years old, and she was accompanied by an old man in his 70s or 80s? Asked the chief, Lu Jingfeng. The 2 men kneeling in the hall drew long faces and did not dare to speak. Lu Jingfeng paced back and forth. A moment later, he said again, an early-stage mystic enlightening cultivator and a 7th or 8th tier body tempering cultivator. What gave them the courage to provoke the Azure Dragon Association? I don't know, Chief. We were recruiting disciples in the street of Anyang when the wild girl suddenly appeared and wounded Officer Jiang. Her grandfather even said, he said. What did he say? He said he will call on you personally today. Lu Jingfeng snorted and his face looked puzzled and dismissive. What puzzled him was why a mere mystic enlightening cultivator had the courage to challenge them. He did not think that the Azure Dragon Association had the need to deal with such a trifle matter. However, if he ignored it, how were they going to recruit disciples again? He needed to regain dignity. Bring 20 brothers with you and find the girl who wounded Officer Jiang today. I understand. The 2 men were getting up to their feet when a man rushed into the hall as he cupped his fist and said, Chief, a girl wishes to see you. Tell her to go away. She said her patience is limited and until she can still obey her grandfather's order, she asked you to do as she said. When he had finished, the man looked up and peeked at the chief. To do as she said sounded like what a senior would tell a junior. Bam! Bam! Suddenly, several men crashed through doors and windows while shrieks and screams could be heard from outside. Lu Jingfeng was in a bad mood already, and he was confused when he saw that. What's happening? Go and have a look. Lu Xingfeng led his men out of the inner hall. Over the courtyard, little Yuano stood on the roof in her blue clothes, twisting her hair with one finger and pointing with another finger at the cultivators of the Azure Dragon Association down below as she said, I told you my patience is limited. I have been good enough to not beat you and yet you made me wait outside? How dare you? She is so strong. Her cultivation base must be at least at the Brahmasi realm. What should we do? The chief is here. The crowd parted. Lu Xingfeng looked up at little Yuano and frowned slightly. Chief, that's her. She is the one who wounded Officer Zhang. With hands clasped behind his back, Lu Xingfeng said, she's an expert. No wonder. Little Yuano's eyes fell on Lu Xingfeng, and she asked, are you the head of this Azure Dragon Association? Ugh, the head. Young lady, you should understand that there is always someone who is better than you. Don't think that you are invincible just because you are a Brahmasi expert, said Lu Xingfeng angrily. Since she was a child, little Yuano had seldom left Golden Court Mountain, so she did not know much about the way of dealing with others. She knew nothing about being humble or low-key, and all she knew was to quickly complete the task assigned by her master. What are you talking about? I'm asking you, are you the head of the gang? Little Yuano furrowed her brow. I am the chief of the Azure Dragon Association's Anyang branch, Lu Xingfeng. Are you in charge of everything? Of course I am. Good. I have a task for you. In the courtyard, everyone looked up warily at little Yuana. Lu Xingfeng was somewhat annoyed. He was trying to figure out what gave the little girl courage to offend the Azure Dragon Association, but in the end, he was just wasting his breath. That's enough. Take her down. He waved a hand at which archers began to let loose arrows at little Yuana. You are a naughty head. As she said that, she lightly stamped her foot. An energy ring rippled out from the bottom of her foot. In just the blink of an eye, the buildings beneath her collapsed and crumbled while waves of energy shot out in all directions. You have opened the 8 meridians of the Brahmasi realm. Lu Xingfeng's eyes grew wide. The Brahmasi realm was divided into 8 meridians. A cultivator could only be considered to have officially stepped into the realm after opening the conception and governor meridians, and reached the highest level after opening the other 6 meridians. When all 8 meridians were opened, the cultivator could use the energy in the meridians to attack. With all 8 meridians opened, the cultivator was invincible below the Divine Court realm. Of course, no matter how powerful the Azure Dragon Association's Anyang branch was, it would not be under a Divine Court expert. Waves of energy pressed down with a mighty momentum, seeming swift and fierce. The surrounding buildings began to crack and showed signs of collapsing while the gang members were thrown back by the force. Lu Xingfeng, who was also a Brahmasi expert, lifted both arms to block the terrible attack. But the waves were too strong, and he was being pushed back repeatedly until his back slammed onto a pillar and cracked it. She is so strong. Wait. Lu Xingfeng swallowed back the blood that was about to rush out of his mouth and stared with wide eyes at little Yuana, who was slowly descending in front of him with both hands clasped behind her back, looking as if nothing had happened. What do you want me to wait for? I didn't expect that you are a Brahmasi expert with 8 meridians opened. Please pardon me for failing to see that and be merciful. We can talk. Little Yuana hopped in front of him as she gazed him with her big eyes and said, I have a task for you. What is it, young miss? I want you to help me investigate the Lakeside Gang. The Lakeside Gang? Lu Xingfeng looked puzzled. He had never heard of the name before. They are behind the kidnapping of the CI family. You have 3 days to find them for me. When he heard it was about the CI family, Lu Xingfeng's face grew serious, and he said, the Lakeside Gang had kidnapped the CI family. This is not something that Azure Dragon Association can be involved in. Say that again? Ugh, my lady, I will certainly find this Lakeside Gang in 3 days. Good. Little Yuano turned around and took a few steps as she glanced at the gang members sprawling on the ground and said, Are you the one who shot me with arrows just now? No. Yes, it was you. Little Yuano's figure flickered, leaving an afterimage on the spot. In the next instant, she was beside the man as she lifted one leg and stomped it on the marble floor next to his face. A perfect footprint appeared on the smooth hard surface of the marble. The man shrieked and pissed in his pants while trembling violently. He was clearly scared out of his wits. She was not a little girl but a little devil. Ha ha. What a coward. Little Yuana made a face. Then she turned to face Lu Xingfeng as she smiled and said, Be obedient. If you don't do as I said, I will decimate your entire Azure Dragon Association. After saying that, She spread her arms and leaped into the air, drifting toward the rooftop before disappearing in the blink of an eye. Dead silence fell over the courtyard. Lu Jingfeng slumped to the ground as he wiped the sweat from his face and muttered under his breath, "Why didn't I know there is such a young expert in Anyang?" He found it strange when he glanced at the gang members lying on the ground around him. If it were any other gang who came to attack them, these gang members would have died by now. But the little girl only wounded them and gave him a task, which he found rather weird. The Lakeside Gang, is there such a gang in Anyang? The more he thought about it, the stranger it seemed to him, and the more puzzled he became. Ding! You have completed the task of mobilizing the Azure Dragon Association and are rewarded with 200 merit points. Lu Zhou had just finished a cup of tea, and he came to the center of the courtyard to have a walk. The Ci family still looked the same. Ji Tiandao met little Yuaner when he came to Anyang for the first time, and that was when he wanted to take her as his disciple. However, he was rejected by her parents. Later, for some unknown reasons, her parents sent her to Golden Court Mountain by themselves. What enemies did the Ci family have over the years? Lu Zhou asked. Wang Fugue, who was standing respectfully nearby, bowed slightly and said, "The family never had any enemies." Not even 5 years ago. 5 years ago? Wang Fugue searched his memory. Then, as if he suddenly thought of something, he said, "Do you mean the Murong family? Tell me about this family." Lu Zhou walked to a block of stone and sat down. 5 years ago, the Murong family and the Ci family were like water and fire. At that time, both families had properties and businesses in the 3 major southern provinces of Great Yin. Master had focused all his efforts on his businesses, which made him a wealthy man. Later, the Ci family and the Murong family became sworn enemies. In the world of Great Yin, cultivators should not meddle with secular affairs, but there are always people who would do anything for profits. Master and his lady were often assaulted by assassins. Was the Murong family behind the assassinations? Everyone knew that they did it, but we had no actual proof, so the authorities ignored the cases. Lu Zhou understood now. It was to protect little Yuana that the Ci family had sent her to Jitiandao. Could the Murong family be responsible for this kidnapping as well? Lu Zhou asked. Wang Fugue paused for a moment and said, "I dare not jump to a conclusion. The cultivation base of a cultivator who can kidnap all the people in a family would not be lower than the 4 meridian stage of the Brahmasi realm. Are there any cultivators in the Murong family? Not on the surface. As for whether there are some hiding in the dark, I do not know." Lu Zhou nodded. Right then, little Yuaner drifted over the roof and jumped into the courtyard. Lu Zhou said in a slightly reproachful tone, "Why did you climb over the roof when there is a front door for you to use?" "Grandpa, if I take the front door, I would have to knock on it and wait for someone to open for me. Climbing over the roof is more convenient." "Don't do this again." "Oh." Little Yuana replied, and she seemed a little unhappy. "Ding. You have disciplined little Yuana and are rewarded with 100 merit points." "How are things going?" Lu Zhou asked. "They are very obedient, and they said they will find the Lakeside Gang for us," little Yuana said excitedly. "Oh? Did you beat them?" "No. That chief was very friendly. He said, 'My lady, I will certainly find this Lakeside Gang in 3 days.'" "Don't look at me like that, Grandpa. I swear I'm telling the truth, and those are his words," little Yuaner mumbled. Lu Zhou knew she must have beaten them, but he did not plan to reproach her. He just wanted to see if she would tell him the truth. "Well, I'll have to teach them slowly. Rome is not built in 1 day." Just like that, 3 days passed in a twinkling. Lu Zhou sat quietly in the courtyard, waiting for the results of the Azure Dragon Association's investigation. Wang Fugue poured him a cup of tea and asked gingerly, "Old mister, why is young miss going to the Azure Dragon Association alone?" "I'm worried about her safety." Lu Zhou glanced at him and said, "If I were you, I would be worried about the safety of the gang members." "Ugh." Wang Fugue looked puzzled. He was not a cultivator, so even though he knew there were different levels of cultivators, he could not tell who was stronger. "Over the past few days, I've heard the news that the members of the Azure Dragon Association are looking for the Lakeside Gang everywhere, causing quite a stir in Anyang," said Wang Fugue. Lu Zhou smiled and did not say a word. He could understand Wang Fugue's worry. After all, the Azure Dragon Association was backed by the Nether sect, the sect leader of which was Yi Shanghai, an expert ranked second on the Black Roll. Just the name alone was enough to strike terror into one's heart. However, ding! An evil man is killed. You are rewarded with 10 merit points. Ding! An evil man is killed. You are rewarded with 10 merit points. Ding! An evil man is killed. You are rewarded with 10 merit points. Lu Zhou sighed. Little Yuano lost her patience eventually. It was almost 1 hour when the system prompts finally stopped. He looked at the system panel. Name, Lu Zhou. Race, human. Cultivation base, the chi refining and soul forming stage of the sense condensing realm. Merit points, 1,254. Avatar, 3 condensing flowers. Remaining life, 4,505 days. Items, Jietiandao Peak Form Card X2, Critical Block Card, Passive, X3 Wizard. Cultivation Technique, 3 Scrolls of Heaven Writing. The merit points had accumulated to more than 1,000. Deducting the rewards from disciplining the disciples and the tasks they had completed, little Yuano had killed at least 50 evil men. Lu Zhou did not expect her to handle the matter properly as soon as she entered the world. After all, she was still young and had no discretion in doing things. Moreover, he had learned from Wang Fuguei over the past few days that the Azure Dragon Association had done many evil deeds and common people had been suffering under them. The authorities had turned a blind eye to them because they were backed by the Nether sect, which turned them into a major scourge in Anyang. They deserved to be killed, and Lu Zhou did not pity them. Fuguei, I want you to find out if there are any unusual activities in the Morong family recently. I'll go right now. Hold on. Is there anything else, old mister? Bring this token. No one will dare to stop you if you show it to them. Go now. I understand. All the items Ji Tiandao obtained through the system were gone, but the goodies he plundered when he held sway in the world remained. And this royal token was one of them. As for the rest, which were not convenient to be brought along, Lu Zhou left them in Evil Sky Pavilion. In the afternoon, Lu Zhou was resting with his eyes closed when little Yuaner jumped off the roof again and came in front of him as she greeted with a playful smile, Master. Lu Zhou frowned slightly and said, Kneel down. Plop! Little Yuaner dropped to her knees immediately, and the smile on her face disappeared. I was wrong, Master. I shouldn't have killed them. I don't blame you for that. Ah? I've told you that this is your home and you have to come in through the front door. Have you forgotten that? Or did you take my words as a mere gust of wind? I'm sorry, Master. I was in a rush and I forgot about that. I promise I won't do it again. Little Yuaner bowed her head and said, if he forgave her every time she made a mistake and said that, she would not remember and become better. So, Lu Zhou pointed to a block of stone beside them and said, lie face down. Ah? You have a pure nature, which is a good thing, but you can't be so wild and have no regard for rules. Since your parents are away, I'll teach you on their behalf. Little Yuano obediently went to the block of stone and lay down. Lu Zhou knew he could not relent at this moment. So, he lifted a hand and produced a weak wave of energy which he threw at her buttocks. Buck! Hee. It doesn't hurt at all. How dare you play tricks with me? Lu Zhou said angrily. Remove your protective energy. Have mercy, Master. I will not do it again, I promise. Little Yuano pleaded. Remove it. Without the protective energy, little Yuano was just an ordinary girl. It was not wrong to be free, but she could not act without rules. Lu Zhou could turn a blind eye when she was on the mountain, but if she still acted like that in Anyang, she might attract unwanted attention and spread the news of their presence here to the other villainous disciples. He must punish her appropriately and make her remember not to make mistakes again. Buck! It hurts, Master. The second stroke was a solid one. Although Lu Zhou was only in the sense condensing realm, he could muster enough energy to hit an ordinary girl. Buck! 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 He hit her 3 more times in a row. In his memory, little Yuano was the only disciple whom Ji Tianda had never beaten before. The other disciples, from the eldest to the 8th, had been beaten and even seriously wounded by him since they were young, but he always saved their lives and healed them with medicines. After the punishment, little Yuano was full of grievances and almost burst into tears. In front of others, she was a formidable and terrible little devil, but when facing Lu Zhou, she was just a child who had not yet grown up. Since she was little, her parents were not with her and her senior brothers and sisters could only give her so much of love, which could not replace her parents. Master was the only person she could rely on. But now her most respected master had beaten her. How could she not be filled with grievances? You may get up, said Lu Zhou with hands clasped behind his back. Master, it really hurts. Good, I want you to feel that. I've told you to forget everything I taught you in the past and remember what I tell you now. I will, Master. Little Yuano pursed her lips. Ding! You have sternly disciplined the 9th disciple, little Yuana. You are rewarded with 300 merit points. Lu Zhou was watching her loyalty when he punished her, and he found that it did not reduce. It meant that when the loyalty was over 80%, it would not reduce as long as he did not do something that disappointed the disciple in principle. Little Yuana was easy to educate, but the other 8 disciples. He shook his head. There was still a long way for him to go, he knew. Although full of grievances, after little Yuana got up to her feet, she pursed her lips and said, "The Azure Dragon Association said there was no lakeside gang, and it was just a fake gang temporarily formed by a group of cultivators." Temporarily formed? Yes. They lied and even invited helpers from the province to kill me. I was seized by anger, so I beat them. Beat? Ugh, I killed them, a little Yuana corrected hurriedly. They had invited some mighty experts. If I didn't fight back, I wouldn't be able to see you again, master. That's enough. Who dares to bully you if they are not divine court experts? Lu Zhou reproached her in a faint voice. Little Yuana did not dare to speak again. Lu Zhou calculated the time. By right, Wang Fugui should have returned by now, yet he did not. After considering for a moment, he said, "The Wang Fugui has not returned. Come with me." I understand. They left the Ci family and walked along the street toward the Murong family. At the derived moon palace, Zhao Yu looked a little agitated and restless, and she kept pacing back and forth. You needn't fret so much, senior sister. Now that things have come to this stage, there's no point regretting it. We have to walk to the end. Yi Tianxin walked out from behind the screen while smiling. Junior sister Tianxin, you don't understand. I wouldn't be so worried if we did this a month ago. The old thing was always short-tempered and selfish. But recently, there has been some changes in the ways he handles things. What changes? It's difficult to put it in words. I just vaguely feel that his approach is gentler, and he is no longer so short-tempered. Zhao Yu thought of the various scenes after Lu Zhou drove back the top 10 experts. Yi Tianxin chuckled and said, "Your fear for him has reached a new level. You have survived his torture for so many years and finally left him. You shouldn't be afraid of him now." That made Zhao Yu recall the painful years she had been through, and she sighed. Maybe I think too much. Do you think he will take the bait? With that old thing's suspicious character, I think it is very difficult. But little junior sister might fall for it. She has a simple nature and has only been away from her family for 5 years. If she learned about it, she will definitely return to Anyang. We just need to capture her. Once that old thing leaves Golden Court Mountain, he will lose the protection of 3rd and 4th senior brothers in the shield, and I will have countless ways to exhaust his trump cards. How do you plan to exhaust his trump cards? There are many orthodox sects and cultivators in this world who have suffered from him. What will these people do if I spread the word about him? Especially the Heavenly Sword sect. Luo Changfeng was killed by that old thing. What if they are all afraid of him? Zhao Yu had witnessed the scene when the top 10 experts and tens of thousands of cultivators fled in the face of her master. She could never forget that for the rest of her life. Perhaps Ji Tiandao was the only person in the world who could make tens of thousands of cultivators flee in terror like that. I've informed the top 10 orthodox sects that the old thing has a secret drug. The top 9 experts are no fools. When they figure it out, they will attack him sooner or later. Just when she finished, one of her subordinates came in and said, "Master, we have just received a letter from Anyang. The Azure Dragon Association was destroyed, and a token of the Imperial Army was seen in the city." The Azure Dragon Association is destroyed? Who did that? Yetianjin furovet herbrov silaitne. We don't know. But, judging from the traces of fight left at the scene, the attacker should be a cultivator who has opened all 8 meridians of the Brahma Sea realm. Zhao Yu said from the side, could it be little Yuanai? Little junior sister is a divine court expert. With her character, it is possible for her to kill all the people, but she wouldn't conceal her cultivation base, Yi Tianxin analyzed. What if that old man left Golden Court Mountain with her? Zhao Yu asked again. Yi Tianxin shook her head. It's unlikely. But, to be on the safe side, I'll send a man to the Ci family to investigate. Someone? Yes, master. Bring these portraits and hide in the Ci family. Once you see them, report back immediately. I understand. Yi Tianxin waved a hand, and the 2 portraits hanging on the screen flew over to the man. One was Ji Tiandao, with a head of white hair and an old face, and the other was the cute-looking little Yuano in blue clothes. After giving out the order, she said again, as for the token of the Imperial Army. This thing can be used to mobilize the imperial army and has always been in the hand of the great Yan's emperor. It has a unique dragon carving to show the world. How did it appear in Anyang? Zhao Yu said curiously. It doesn't matter. Although the imperial army will obey the token, it is not so easy to be mobilized. There are only two possibilities. Someone has faked it, or the emperor is here but dressed as a commoner. However, Great Yan has been plagued by wars in the recent years, so the emperor wouldn't do something so risky. That makes sense. A smile brushed Yu Tianqin's lips as she said, "Don't worry, senior sister, everything is under my control." Meanwhile, Lu Zhou and little Yuano arrived outside the Murong family. Little Yuano, you're being too high profile, and I'm afraid that you have attracted the attention of others. From now on you will do as I say. I understand, master. What would you do if the masterminds behind the kidnapping are your senior brothers and sisters? Lu Zhou had a feeling that even if it were not done by them, it must have something to do with them. It can't be them. They have treated me very kindly, and they won't have the hearts to kidnap my father and mother, said little Yuano as she twisted her hair with a finger. Lu Zhou shook his head and thought, she's still too simple. Let's go in. He walked up the steps. I'll knock the door for you, master. Just kick it open. Little Yuano, Bam! The door was kicked open. Hearing the noise, guards poured out like bees, and when they saw that the intruders were just an old man and a little girl, one of them growled, How dare you kick the door of the Murong family? Take them down. Lu Zhou glanced at the guards and waved a hand. Little Yuano did not understand the gesture, so she asked, retreat. Beat them. I like this. After she was beaten by her master, little Yuano had been feeling down and depressed, but she had no way to vent out. Feeling overjoyed now, the little girl immediately jumped into the crowd like a wolf leaping into a herd of sheep, kicking and punching at every man, moving here and there as fast as a bolt of lightning. Before the guards could catch up with her movements, they were all knocked flying away, and none could come out with a counterattack. In just a brief moment, the fight had ended. Little Yuano clapped her hands with satisfaction and said, Grandpa, they are too weak. Lu Zhou was speechless. What was there to be shown off when a divine court expert bullied a bunch of guards at the early stage of body tempering realm? The guards were in a miserable state. All of them lay on the ground with bloody noses and swollen faces, moaning painfully and struggling to get up to their feet. The noises immediately attracted the attention of other people in the residence. Before long, the head of the family, Murong Hai, strode over with several cultivators. When he saw what happened, he glared at Lu Zhou and asked, Who are you? Lu Zhou said in a faint voice, Is Wang Fugue in your residence? He forged the token of the imperial army, so I've arrested him and sent him to the authorities. Lu Zhou frowned slightly. No one had dared to talk to him like that when he was on Golden Court Mountain. You wanna make him talk properly. I understand. Little Yuano chuckled as she exercised her fists and said, Hey, you better talk properly. And who is this insolent girl? Didn't your parents teach you manners? Before Murong Hai could finish, however, little Yuano had disappeared from where she stood, leaving numerous afterimages in the void as she approached him and those around him. In the blink of an eye, she had knocked them all to the ground. An 8 Meridians Brahma Sea expert. Murong Hai slumped to the ground and looked at little Yuano with an unsightly face while the rest clutched their chests, unable to move. Oh? You seem to be tougher than the others. Little Yuano was very curious, and she was about to hit him again. No. Stop. Please stop. Murong Hai kept waving his hands while pleading. Somebody release the man. Wang Fugue is fine, he's fine. Before long, Wang Fugue was brought over with bruises all over his face and both hands bound behind his back. As the saying went, when one beats a dog, one must answer to its master. Little Yuano's nostrils flared immediately on seeing that sight. Grandpa? Do as you like. Little Yuano cracked her knuckles and showed her teeth. Who beat Fugue? A hush fell over the crowd as no one dared to answer her. Who would dare to admit it at this moment, especially after she displayed her formidable strength? The cultivators of the Murong family were no different from ordinary people before her. You did it. Little Yuano pointed at Murong Hai. No, not me, a Murong Hai waved repeatedly. How could Wang Fugue, a mere servant, be worthy of being tortured by him personally, who was the head of a great family? Yes, it was you. Little Yuano came in front of Murong Hai with a blink and lifted her fist before throwing it at his face. Bam! 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 Lu Zhou looked away. After a few shrieks, Murong Hai's face had become swollen and his nose bled. Why did you do this to me? I have no grievances or enmity with you, he said in a sobbing voice. Lu Zhou asked, do you know about the kidnapping of the CI family? The crowd fell silent. Don't be in a hurry to answer, Lu Zhou added. Then, he turned to little Yuana and said, if I feel that he is lying to me, little Yuana, I want you to break his leg for me. All right, Grandpa. Little Yuana became extremely excited when she heard that she could beat someone. Moronghai grew distressed. What should I answer? Can anyone tell me? The rest of the people could not help but take a step backward. Yes, I know about it, he nodded and said. Who did it? I only know that they are backed by formidable cultivators. Although my family and the CI family are sworn enemies, we lack the ability to kidnap hundreds of people from their residence in just one night, said Moronghai. Formidable cultivators? Moronghai glanced at Wang Fugue. He guessed this old man should have a very good relationship with the CI family, so he said, Old mister, listen to me, don't provoke these people. Do you know them? Shaking his head, Moronghai said, not really. I just know that this group of cultivators is related to Golden Court Mountain. Do you know about Golden Court Mountain? No. Tell me about it. He has not heard of the Golden Court Mountain, and judging from his aura and mannerism, he should be a hermit, a cultivator who shuts himself from the world, Moronghai thought. There is a villainous patriarch living on the Golden Court Mountain. He has 9 disciples, and each of them is a famous villain. It is very likely that the group of cultivators is related to some villains of the Golden Court Mountain. They kill people without batting their eyes and do all kinds of evil deeds. Old mister, I can tell that you are a kind man, but you must not provoke them.